As I said at the top of the show, the Leandro case has been going on now for more than 20 years. Is this new effort going to help bring a resolution? Our first guest, I think, hopes so. And so they are Brad Wilson. Brad, you are the chair of the Governor's Commission on Access to Sound Basic Education. Some of our viewers may recognize you also as the longtime former now CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. Next to Brad is Melody Chalmers. Melody serves on the commission alongside Brad. She is the principal of E.E. Smith High School, a friend of the program, has been on before, and the former North Carolina Principal of the Year. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Brad, I'm going to start with you. What was the goal? I mean, sort of why was the commission created in the first place? Obviously, you talked to the governor, but I hope you did before he appointed you as chair. So what was the thinking behind this new effort?
Well, Keith, the answer to that question is really found in your introduction that we were listening to very carefully. The Leandro case is now over 20 years old, and there has been subsequent litigation relevant to this whole topic. And so Governor Cooper, as he came into office and was setting his priorities, believed that now is the time, long past the time, that new emphasis and energy be placed on the implementation and the execution of the court order. And so what our core and central task is to help refresh our recollection as well as help refine what it is that Leandro means. What does that constitutional language frame out for the state of North Carolina? And then how would we go about as a state actually implementing and executing those things that we need to do here in this state to improve those letter grade scores that you just talked about, for example.
Right. Now, Melody, it's an impressive group of folks on the commission, including yourself, but I know that from looking at the list, and I've been to a couple of the meetings, I mean, you're on the front lines. I mean, you are a principal right now. You're in a county, I mean, Cumberland County, which is where I'm from. I mean, it wouldn't be considered, sort of defined as a low wealth county, but it certainly has challenges and issues. So do you feel a part of your role being on this commission is to, I don't know, sort of reality check sort of what's going on?
Absolutely. I'm glad to have had the opportunity to bring the practical insights into the different topics that have been discussed at the previous meetings. Our focus on fulfilling the constitutional mandate to make sure that all students have a sound basic education is so important to all persons that work in education. So it's been a privilege as a principal to be able to provide input to the commission and also to learn so that then I can take that information back and share with my colleagues in Cumberland County what we are doing as a state, what this commission is trying to accomplish through our commission meetings so that we can make sure that all of our schools have effective teachers, principals, and all of our students have the resources they need to be successful.
Well, I'll jump off on the what have you learned. I was thinking about it before you came on. You were in the healthcare business for a long time, and you're now working on this. I mean, you don't get much more personal to families and communities than health and education. I mean, what have you learned about sort of what's going on across the state in education?
Well, the commission, we've met 3 times. In fact, we were going to have our 4th meeting this past Thursday, but the weather got in the way in Hickory. So we've been very much in a learning mode, and we're continuing to do that as we transition now to acting on that which we have learned. But a couple of data points, things are still in flight, but we have learned that, for example, the state is funding less than 2/3 of the total funding of our public schools, and counties are now funding close to 25%. That's been getting out of balance. Overall per pupil expenditure since the recession of 2008 has declined by 10%. And if you adjust for inflation, teacher salaries have also fallen, I think, somewhere in the range of 8%. If you just adjust it in real terms. So we're not here today to declare a lot of data points from which we will take our action, but we are learning a lot. The importance of early childhood education so that children are coming to school healthy and ready to learn. That is a very, very important subject that our 5 work groups are now focused on, and they'll begin to bring some findings and information back to the full commission for our consideration.
And we've got some graphics we're going to pull up on the screen there. Some of this is related to what you just referenced, which is the role of the local communities, because I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen it in Fayetteville. I mean, there are more things that the state is relying on your community. I mean, what are you seeing in terms of resources and investment?
Well, absolutely. We are concerned about having equitable resources across the board, that schools or communities that are more affluent, that those students don't have. They may have more resources, but how do we level the playing field? That's a lot of what we've been talking about.
On the screen right now, we've got a chart that was actually from the Forum's local school finance board that shows sort of the top wealthy counties and how much they are able to put in.
Right, and so that's important to make sure that we address those issues of equity in schools. And so we had some presentations at one of our earlier meetings about funding,
right,
and the different ways that counties are able to supplement or not supplement the education of students. And so I think that's a very important aspect that the commission is attempting to address.
Well, let's talk about just as we sort of wind down this part of the show, Brad. The General Assembly are the ones who allocate funding and are going to make the rules. I mean, you're obviously aware of what's going on with their school finance reform task force. Are y'all talking? I mean, is this something that will eventually line up as far as you make some recommendations as a commission, legislature, got to do some things?
Well, absolutely. This is a process, and we're kind of in the middle of it. But the role of the commission and what we intend to do is work with all policymakers, executive, legislative, everyone who cares about public education in North Carolina, to bring a common voice and a strong focus about actually moving the needle after 20 years of litigation and making sure that our communities across the state can feel positive impact about not only the work of the commission, but the work of the court-appointed consultant that I think you're going to explore a little bit more later, through the great work that our educational professionals do. So this is a collaborative effort, and we will be working very closely with all those who care about making a difference in public education in North Carolina.
Well, I think everybody cares about it. If they don't, they should, but we appreciate you coming on and explaining a little bit. We're going to continue our conversation next with a little bit more of the specifics about some of the litigation and what may happen next. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to talk to one of the original plaintiff districts and the lead attorney in the Leandro case to get their take on a possible resolution. But before we get a break, see if you can answer this question. True or false, according to state law, only 50% of teachers at a charter school must be certified.
Education Matters is brought to you each week in part by Paragon Bank, serving others, enriching lives.